I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Well, it's prime swimming season here in the Northland, and this weekend's warmth will lure even more people to the lakeshore. Tonight, some tips on staying healthy while you swim.
An emerging economic trend has been branded the sharing economy, and it's making waves in government and even presidential politics.
And for the first time, man has an up-close view of Pluto thanks to NASA's new Horizons mission.
These topics and more coming up on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. Danny, a very steamy weekend in the forecast.
I wish I could bottle some of this steamy and release it come January. Can't do that.
You could make yourself $1 million though if you could.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, we've got some hot topics coming up tonight too.
All right, thank you very much, Julie. Well, promised warm weather this weekend will certainly make a dip in your favorite body of water rather enticing. But the recent death of a young boy from a rare amoeba infection acquired while swimming in western Minnesota may have some viewers thinking twice about cooling off in the lake. And so we've invited health officials to the studio to share some safe swimming guidelines. Ellen Hill is an epidemiologist with the Minnesota Department of Health, and Cindy Hakala is the manager of the Lake Superior Beach Monitoring Program. Thank you both for being here, and welcome to the program tonight. This was a rare amoeba that caused this death. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So the amoeba is called Naegleria fowleri. It can be a bit of a mouthful,
Yeah.
but essentially it's what people would normally call like a brain-eating amoeba. It's a very rare amoeba that causes an infection that is generally even more rare itself.
To your knowledge, has this happened in Minnesota before with this amoeba?
It has happened in the past, but not for a number of years now.
Okay. Is it always fatal?
Generally it is. I think the current statistics are about 97% fatal.
As you look at this year, has it been a pretty typical year or a bad year for waterborne illnesses?
You know, the jury's still out on the illnesses in particular. Our reporting for cases is generally a few weeks delayed as well. But and then there's also the built-in delay in testing and going to see a provider and that kind of thing. But in general, you know, we haven't heard a whole lot about at least clusters of illnesses in the area. It's been fairly quiet.
Cindy, are most public beaches in our area monitored pretty regularly for water quality?
Well, the Lake Superior Beach Monitoring Program just tests Lake Superior waters, and we only test public beaches. So we do 40 of them from West Duluth in Gary up past Grand Marais to the town of Hovland.
I didn't realize there were that many beaches on the lake. It's a popular swimming place. Do you do any testing on public beaches on nearby inland lakes?
No, we don't do any inland lakes with our program.
But now there have been some advisories recently on Lake Superior. Talk about those and what that means.
Yeah, this week was particularly busy for Lake Superior. We test for E. coli bacteria, and we use that to tell us, as an indicator, to tell us that there's a general contamination of fecal material in the water. And that could be from a variety of sources, such as animals, both wild and domestic, the swimmers themselves, a potential sanitary sewer leak, or stormwater, the rainfall that comes and washes down the landscape, a variety of sources.
So other than avoiding beaches where there are the posted advisories, are there things that members of the public can do to kind of just best practices when they're swimming in Lake Superior or swimming in any lake?
Yeah, and those recommendations don't change whether you're in at a monitored beach, such as one of the public beaches on Lake Superior, or if you're at a beach that isn't monitored. We recommend that if you have diarrhea, that you stay out of the water.
Yeah.
Also, don't swallow the water and don't get it in your mouth. And finally, shower before and after swimming. Those 3 things will really help keep you safe.
Ellen, if a person gets sick after swimming and they suspect it might be caused by something in the water, should they report that, and if so, to whom?
Yes, definitely. We would definitely welcome a report from someone who believes they've become ill from swimming in a body of fresh water.
Regardless of the lake?
Regardless of the lake. And they can call the Minnesota Department of Health in St. Paul, and that phone number is 1-877-FOOD-ILL. Now, that is originally just our foodborne hotline,
Sure.
reporting hotline, but it has been expanded to also take
Want to give that
waterborne
number
calls.
one more time?
Sure, it's 1-877-FOOD, F-O-O-D, ILL, I-L-L.
Good to
And
know.
we will be having that number up at the end of the segment too, so if people didn't quite catch it, they'll be able to look at it at that point.
Yeah.
But what are some of the more common complaints that you're getting, or common reports that you're hearing this year?
You know, the most common reports we generally get are for non-reportable conditions such as swimmer's itch or other ear infections that people might have thought they received from swimming in a freshwater body of water. We have not really received very many reportable diseases reported to us from swimming in a freshwater.
Cindy, are area beaches monitored weekly, daily? How often do you take water samples?
The most popular beaches, the ones that get the most use, such as the Park Point beaches, are monitored twice a week, and then the rest of them are monitored once a week. But if we do have an advisory crop up, then we keep monitoring each day until the bacterias come back down to acceptable thresholds.
If there is a problem, do you notify the media, and also do you post warning signs at the scene?
Yes, we do. We have a number of ways to get the word out about the beach advisories. We have a physical sandwich board sign at the beach,
Okay.
big yellow sign. And then we have an email listserv, so folks can visit our website, mnbeaches.org, and sign up for email alerts if they want. We have a hotline people can call that's different from the Food Ill hotline.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a variety of ways. And then a website.
But those warning signs should be heeded.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is an advisory.
Yeah.
We don't close a beach and police it, but yes, we advise that you stay out of the water.
Is there any way people can tell just by looking at the water, or by knowing what the conditions have been lately, that would, maybe give them pause as to whether or not they should be swimming?
Right, so basically what we recommend is that if the water really doesn't look very clear or it looks very cloudy, then we very much recommend that they think twice about going in the water. And the saying that we have is, if in doubt, stay out. And that can go for a lot of different things, more than just the E. coli, the bacterial contamination. That can go for other environmental contaminants as well.
The big thing, though, this year, I imagine there's been a little bit of panic with the young man who unfortunately died, but generally Minnesota lakes are pretty safe, aren't they?
From what we can tell, yes.
Yeah, good to hear.
Yes.
Ellen, Cindy, thank you very kindly. Appreciate telling your story.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
Hi, Harv. Cleaned out the garage. Some really hazardous stuff there. Old cans of oven cleaner, slug bait, last year's weed killer.
What you're seeing is part of a new public information campaign designed to get area residents more involved with recycling. It's part of a new program put on by the Western Lake Superior Sanitation District, introduced at the Duluth Entertainment and Convention Center this afternoon. Many cities around the nation already have recycling programs in place, but officials here are hoping to avoid some of the problems that have occurred elsewhere.
We were very concerned about developing a system that has the strength to sustain its effort by not having public money being dumped into recycling. We saw problems over the last couple of years in areas that have tried to run recycling programs with all public money. We think recycling is part of the waste management system, and that the waste management system needs to be paid for by the people that use it.
The word seems to be spreading that recycling really does work. Starting on October 1st, all garbage collectors will be required by law to provide curbside pickup for items that can be recycled. If they fail to do so, they won't be allowed to operate their business any longer. Some people still seem to think that recycling would be an inconvenience, but as we've seen here today, it's not much different than just taking out the trash. For Evening Edition, Joe Thornton, KDLH News.
There's a new economic trend taking the world by storm, powered by smartphone apps and innovative entrepreneurs. These technology-based businesses have names like Uber, VRBO, or TaskRabbit. The so-called gig economy often sidesteps government regulation while putting thousands of people to work on their own terms, and the businesses are fast becoming an issue in the simmering 2016 presidential campaign. Here to help us understand the sharing economy is Abby Mlinar, who is a frequent Uber user while traveling in her marketing job with Draw Events. And Abby, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. It's happy to be here.
There might be a lot of people in our viewing audience who have no idea what Uber is. It's an alternative to hiring a taxi cab, but kind of
Correct.
explain to people how it works.
So I like to use Uber mostly because it's fast and easy, and I don't have to pick up the phone and actually talk to anybody, which is common with my generation. To use Uber, you just grab your smartphone, so a phone that has the internet on it, and you'll have to download the application. So like on your phone, there's a mail app or the texting app. You'll download the new app, Uber, and you're able to plug in your location. It'll know where you are automatically, but sometimes it's a little fuzzy, so double check that. Select that you're ready to be picked up, and an Uber driver will be notified and be on your way.
And these Uber drivers are just kind of citizens who put their car out for hire, right?
Exactly, yeah. Well, not necessarily out for hire, but they decide that they'll drive you. So their self and their car is up for hire.
So is today's millennium generation, which you probably belong to, are you more interested in renting things rather than purchasing?
I guess you can say that. It's a couple of reasons I think this is successful right now. It's because it's easy to use, but also, yeah, many people from the new generations aren't interested in owning things, owning cars, owning homes.
Clothing? Can you rent clothing?
Actually, you can rent clothing.
You can
there
rent clothing.
are multiple ways to rent clothing online, yeah, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, even in person. But Uber is definitely filling that gap. People who don't have vehicles, or like myself, when we travel for work, we found that Uber is much more easy to use, but also cost-effective versus renting a vehicle.
Is that common, Abby, here in the Northland? You're not standing out there alone. Is it a lot of people doing it?
Here in Duluth, Uber hasn't come to us yet, so unfortunately you can't use Uber here. But in Minneapolis you can. Since I travel for work, I go to major metropolitan areas, and that's how my experience with Uber has come to life.
Mm-hmm. It seems like technology has really changed the landscape for entrepreneurs and for general contractors, independent contractors, and for the consumers. Is it a good thing, what's happening with business these days?
Well, I guess, in my opinion, I think it is. I really believe so. I think it's good for the consumer and as well as this new small business owner, as they will be. Uber considers their drivers to be small business owners. They're contractors, so they're not employee-based. And yes, there is a downside, which is that they aren't backed up by retirement options or by sick leave. But a lot of people these days are requesting those type of environments. Even before Uber was alive, I was reading articles about this new gig economy where people want to work on short-term temporary contracts. They're able to help one person for a limited amount of time and move on.
I'm the first one to say 100 years from now, our world is going to be a whole lot different. Mark my word. Oh, we won't be here. But I guess my next question is, are we finding then that as the world changes, is this going to catch on more and more in all different aspects of life?
Yeah, Uber likes to say that they're moving to markets slowly, but believe it or not, they're going all over the place so quickly. Everywhere I go for work, Uber's already there, and they also already have a competitor named Lyft, and so both of those people are in all markets, growing like crazy. Even the company I work for, we produce festivals, and they're smart enough to come after us to use our consumers for our events to market to, and we partnered with them, and it was a great experience.
You're leaving me in the dust.
Now, you mentioned the fact that a lot of these independent contractors don't have some of the traditional benefits that full-time workers do. And that's one of the reasons that this has really kind of caught the attention of the presidential candidates right now. Hillary Clinton, for example, is really pushing for more regulation, more worker protections within this industry, while the Republican challengers are maybe saying, well, let's take more of a hands-off approach on this. Is this an issue that you think is going to resonate with millennials in the presidential race this year, or isn't it really on people's radar?
I think it's definitely on people's radar, but I wouldn't say millennials per se. I think that as with any new innovation in a major industry or all industries, as the sharing economy really is becoming a part of, you're going to expect that there will be some new governmental changes that will have to come about by this new idea of people working in different ways than they've ever worked before. So of course there's going to be changes, and I think it's great that people are talking about it, but either way, wherever the dice fall, I think it'll be great for everybody.
Do you personally think more regulations might be needed on some of these industries?
Oh,
not now?
some. I guess I don't know my exact feeling on that part of it yet, but I think it wouldn't hurt to at least consider the possibilities.
But the genie's out of the bottle at this point. It seems like there's no turning back.
There's no turning back. The consumer doesn't want to turn back, and from where I see and the Uber drivers that I speak with, they also don't want to turn back. They love the opportunity that they have, and every time I get in an Uber, I like to ask them, why are you doing this? Like, why did you get into Uber? And so many different stories, all over the place.
So it's here.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for coming and sharing information about it. Really interesting.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Great
Abby.
to be here.
Well, after a 9.5-year journey, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft sent back some amazing photos as it made a close flyby of mysterious Pluto. The dwarf planet has never been seen in such detail as the images transmitted back to Earth this week. The spacecraft traveled an amazing 3 billion miles to reach Pluto and now continues on a lonely journey to the edge of our solar system and beyond. Quite an exciting week for space watchers like our guest, Astro Bob King, photographer at the Duluth News-Tribune and an avid sky watcher. Bob, thanks for being here. What's the most intriguing thing you've seen or heard about Pluto so far, Bob?
Well, the fact that it's hot. You would think it would be very cold out there, and it is. The surface of this little dwarf planet is about 380 degrees below zero, but it has these mountains and other features on it that can only be cooked up if it's warm inside. And they still don't know exactly what makes Pluto warm inside. They
Volcanic heat, perhaps?
Might be volcanic, but they think it might also, there might be an ocean beneath that crust that's been slowly cooling since the beginning of the solar system. And as it cools, it releases heat, and that could rumple the crust and create mountains and other things. But you need a source of heat, and the fact that Pluto is not just a dead ball of ice is the most amazing thing.
Wow.
Now, were you one of those people who is just sitting there with bated breath waiting for those first images to come in, getting your first glimpse?
Yes, and it's very hard to do when you're also trying to work a job
I'm
at
sure.
the same time. Yes, I'll be there in just a minute, and you just see the new images come up, from on the computer from NASA. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
A separate new set just came in today, as a matter of fact.
Bob, Pluto is somewhat larger than they had expected it to be. Could it be redesignated a planet?
Boy, that's a really good question. The person who's the head of the whole Pluto team, Alan Stern, the principal investigator, to him, Pluto's been a planet from the beginning, and he'll never change his mind.
I love that.
He's, and I think a lot of people love that too. But yes, it could be redefined in the future. However, Pluto, the reason why it is not considered a planet is because there are so many other Pluto-like objects in that part of the solar system. We've all heard of the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Well, nobody knew when Pluto was discovered that there was another asteroid belt that started beyond Neptune. And Pluto was the first object found in that belt. Now we know there's hundreds of objects there.
So scientifically, are you in agreement that it probably shouldn't be designated as a planet?
Should I say this on the air?
I don't
Do you
know.
think I'll get in trouble?
People take this pretty personally.
I know they're going to take it personally, but I'll make a stand, and I'm on the asteroid dwarf planet end. I would say that Pluto is not a planet. If we were to designate Pluto as a planet, we'd have to consider in another 20 years 100 other objects, and we'd have to name them planets too.
Yeah.
I like to keep things simple.
Bob, these pictures are absolutely amazing. I mean, look, there are mountains there. Does this open a whole new era of space photography?
It's just nonstop between the European Space Agency's probe that's circling Rosetta's comet, and between this probe, and there's new ones going to Jupiter. There's a brand new one that's already around Mars. It's only, yes, it's just nonstop photography. So much space science is getting out, and it's getting out to the public quickly, which is wonderful.
Look at the clarity of these pictures.
I know the flyby is great. It makes you feel like you're just about there. I mean, Pluto was just a little blob, a little blip on a screen up until a couple of years ago, and now look at these pictures. It's a real place with character.
Now, it took 9.5 years?
9.5 years, yes.
For New Horizons to get there. Do you think that given everything that's happened with Pluto's designation that it even would have happened today?
That is a really good question. It may not have, but when it was known as a planet, then it became the final planet that we've sent a spacecraft to. We've been to every single other planet, flybys, we've circled around them, but this is so possibly not, but I'm really glad we went.
All these years are what, 35,000 miles an hour? Is human space travel, any distant space travel, just a pipe dream? Are probes the way to go?
Well, they're a lot safer, they're a lot less expensive, but I think that people should go into space, and I'm really hoping that in our lifetimes we'll be able to see a mission to Mars with people.
Yeah. Quickly, Bob, what else is in the skies we should take a look at?
This is great. This is such a great question because Saturday, tomorrow evening, we are going to see a wonderful conjunction of the crescent moon and the planet Venus. And right alongside of Venus, just a little bit to the right, you'll see Jupiter. So you'll see 3 objects all together in the western sky about an hour after sundown.
Wonderful. So
What got you so into becoming a space junkie?
I think I just like the little twinkly lights in the sky. I don't know, I just started.
Nothing wrong with that.
I started looking at constellations when I was a young boy, looking out my bedroom window at night and seeing Orion rise over my neighbor's roof.
Now, I know there have been some organized movements to make Duluth a dark sky city. Is that something that you think would ever happen?
I hope that it can be. Or that we can be, watch our lighting and make sure that we try to keep our skies dark, because we have a major resource in this town, and you know what I'm talking about. It's the northern lights. Yeah. We live in a place where they happen often, and you need dark skies to really appreciate them.
Yeah, you really do, yeah.
Well,
have there been any visual, has your visuals been hampered at all by the smoke from the fires coming in?
Oh, it's been terrible. Oh, awful. Yeah, there are nights where the sky is clear. I'll go outside and I'll see one thing, and it's clear because it's so thick with smoke. Luckily, this weekend it looks like the smoke is cleared out for that nice conjunction event that we'll see tomorrow.
Beautiful. That's tomorrow night.
Tomorrow evening, hour after sunset, give or take. 2 planets, crescent moon.
Beautiful.
Check it out.
Bob King. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Great story. Appreciate it. Time now for the week's business news from Business North. A new store has opened at the Fitkers complex in Duluth to serve the growing number of people who like to make their own beer and wine. Duluth Homebrew Supply provides beer and winemaking ingredients from across the country and around the world. They also supply locally grown ingredients, including grains, honey, and coffee. The retailer also offers classes for hobbyists of all skill levels and interests. The owners say their store will help solidify Duluth's position as a craft beer capital.
Blue Wave on the Bay, a new $1.5 million development, has opened in Ashland. The unique 10,000 square foot building includes a 5-unit luxury hotel on the upper level with a coffee house and eatery on the ground floor. Additional retail space will be occupied by Solstice Outdoors, an outdoor gear and clothing store. The business has local owners, and the Ashland Chamber of Commerce director says they are committed to success and supporting the Chequamegon Bay community.
Well, the Duluth Seaway Port Authority has named Catherine Ferguson Director of Business Development. She will work to develop, attract, and retain business for the Port Authority and its properties. Those duties include coordinating business expansion projects with industrial development organizations throughout this region. Ferguson spent 9 years working in transportation logistics based in Duluth with the Great Lakes Fleet and later with Canadian National Railway. She has a bachelor's degree in transportation and logistics from UWS and an MBA from UMD. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
And it's time to call with your comments on this week's show. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message or send an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org. And browse the WDSE website for updates on your favorite PBS programs, find out about station events, or just check out our broadcast schedule. And Danny, you like hot weather, so this weekend should be ideal for you. I imagine you'll be out there swimming a bit.
I'm going to check out my lake tomorrow to see if it's clean to swim in and take a dip.
All right, sounds good. For Danny and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.